Hey everybody, Just Intuitive Angel Healer here with your Grounded. Thank you so much for joining our podcast today and welcome to another episode of Dancing in the Toxic Shadows, Finding Empowerment Through the Toxicity. This is a podcast that features an empowered soul swim through the toxic waters of life and how they found the courage, strength, and blind faith used to obtain the life they truly want to live, and how they encourage others to take that same leap of faith, no matter if they can only see the first two steps or not. Today, we have a very special guest, Rachelle Babler from San Diego, California. Hi, Rachelle.
Hi,
How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. And Rachelle is a TED Talk coach, soon to be a official motivational speaker. She's a former paramedic and forensic analyst. And you, my friend, have one of the most interesting stories. I love it. People like you encourage me to keep doing shows like this and to keep having the will to wake up and be more grateful about my life. We have everything we need and we are blessed every day if we just look around. But without further ado, I want to hand it over to you. If you can just tell us who you are, your age, a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was such a sweet intro. Yeah, I do have an interesting background. I've done quite a few things in my life. So I was born in Los Angeles and moved down to San Diego when I was just a couple years old. So this San Diego is all I know. And my family, we grew up here. My dad was in the Navy, and luckily he didn't get stationed around. We actually stayed in San Diego for the duration of his service. After high school, when I graduated, I went to school and I became a paramedic. And I was actually a paramedic with the city of San Diego for 6 years. And the contract was going to change. The paramedics, I was working for a private ambulance company. So every so many years, the bid goes up, the contract goes up for bid. So the contract was coming up for bid. And several of us were going to lose our jobs because we found out that only so many paramedics were going to get taken on to the next contract. So many of us started going back to school. I started going back to school and I took a forensics course, and I always loved forensics, but I really liked it. And the guy that was teaching it ended up hiring me as a part-timer in the lab, and I completely shifted gears with careers. So I went into forensics. I stayed in forensics for 20 years, working at a local law enforcement agency here in San Diego, analyzing fingerprints from crime scenes. It was a fascinating career. I loved it. I did a lot of research and spoke all over the country on my research that I'd done to share with other agencies. And then in 2017, I'd been on a journey of really doing a lot of personal development work, and it was just time for me to be done. And I quit cold turkey. Gave 2 weeks notice. I had no idea what I was going to do, and I jumped into the entrepreneurial world. And I just decided that my intuition was going to be my guide to tell me where to go and what I should be doing. And that was 3 years ago. And it's been an amazing and fun journey. I love everything I've done, and I am so grateful I took that leap to just really jump into what my why is.
That sounds amazing. And that's kind of funny how it works that way. I ended up finding, I thought I had it all together. I'm only 39. I'll be 40 here very shortly. So I know I'm still a baby. But I really, literally at 37, I thought I had it all together. I thought, well, I got the kid, I got the marriage, I went to school, I'm in the medical field, I'm 30 credits away from my bachelor's degree. I'm going to be a healthcare administrator. That's what I was looking almost about to be, as a healthcare administrator. And then what happens? I turn around and all of a sudden now I am a spiritual grounding coach. And yeah, and I connect with the angelic world. So it's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's get into your story real quick. I know that 12 years, they found a brain tumor and you've been clear of it for 12 years. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I have 2 children. I was married at the time. I had just had my second child, my daughter. And at the end of my pregnancy with her, I was having really bad, severe vertigo, just dizziness. And it would be so bad, it would just like, I would fall to the ground because everything was just spinning so hard. I went to the doctor for my appointment and I was like, I'm having this really bad vertigo. And the doctor's like, it's probably like pressure between your ears because you're so swollen right now from being pregnant. And I was like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. And he said, once you have the baby, it'll go away. And so I had my daughter, and within the first month of having her, I was still having them, and then they actually got worse. So she was about 8 weeks old. I, told my doctor, and so my doctor sent me to an ENT doctor, ear, nose, throat, to see, if there was something wrong. And he wanted to send me to therapy because he thought there was some sort of vestibular imbalance, and that, doing manipulations with your head can actually like correct that. And I've done that before. And I think because, me being a paramedic and having a pretty big background of medical experience and just my intuition, my gut, which I really wasn't tapped into at that time. It was like, I talked about my gut and listening to your gut, but it wasn't like, I didn't know back then how powerful it was. And I remember telling the doctor, I need an MRI. And he's like, and he didn't want to give me one. And I wouldn't leave his office until he did, until he ordered one. So he actually decided to order one. And I had my MRI, and he called me and he said, well, we actually found something. And that was when my journey began with, my brain tumor, and really advocating for myself, because I went through a lot during that time of trying to figure out what was wrong, what treatment I needed, all these different opinions that I was getting and stuff. So
when you were going through this, was this before or after your career of being a paramedic?
So this was after. So this was in 2008, and I'd been with the police department for almost 10 years. So I was,
Wow.
yeah. And I had it, and at the time I had, my newborn, and then I also had an 18-month-old. So it was a really dark time for me when I got that phone call, because, you think you have a brain tumor, and he told me most of these are malignant or benign, not a lot are malignant. So it's kind of like, let's wait and see, and we're going to keep monitoring it and go from there.
And they did find out it was a rare form of.
Yeah, it's a rare brain tumor. It's 1% of all brain tumors. And that was one of the problems, is when I went to go see these doctors, not many had treated it. So they were kind of like, let's pull out what the protocol says of doing with this, and then we'll just do it. And I wasn't ready to take that as an answer, because come to find out, this brain tumor grows less than a percentage a year. So some people have it for 15, 20 years and nothing happens because it's so slow growing. Well, mine grew almost 40% in 6 months. So that's when they thought it was maybe not benign. It was maybe malignant, and I needed treatment right away. So that's when things got really complicated, because I was trying to find out what the best treatment was for me, getting all these different opinions. And I finally flew to Stanford with my best friend to get more opinions up there from doctors that had actually treated it more. And then I found out what treatment I needed, but then my insurance denied my treatment. So then I had to go through this whole process of appealing with my insurance company to get that done. So yeah, it was a lot of things happening in a very short time and very fast. That's when I really, I think, stepped into just my spiritual journey of trusting and, being an advocate, using my voice. I mean, that was like a big one, using my voice and talking to doctors and stepping up to, what I needed to do for myself and the right thing, and, against a big insurance company that wasn't going to help me.
And I can so fully understand that. I was a medical assistant for many years, and I'm the uncommon medical assistant that would get my patients approved. I had a lady, I was a GI medical assistant, so we treated the belly, but she kept telling me, something's not right with my kidneys. I'm going to the ER, and she kept showing up there. And I'm one of the, because it's obviously in my nature, I'm a light worker. Of course, I'm going to get on the phone because I know how to get around stuff. And so they were telling her, we'll get you an appointment in a month. I was like, this lady's gonna have kidney failure in a month. So
Yeah.
I got on there and it took me a minute, but I used my muscle. And let's just say I got that lady treated in a doctor's appointment the next week.
Yeah.
And then I had her on the phone after that, giving me a call, profusely thanking me. And I'm getting chills right now because I saved that lady. Like, she had a major, I forgot what was wrong, but I know things when I know, and that's the biggest thing when you're a medical assistant and or a paramedic, you better use your intuition. And I worked in infectious disease, so those kind of jobs, if you don't use your intuition and you don't use your gut feeling right then and there, you don't have time, because you could lose a patient, and or you can make them unnecessarily suffer
Yeah.
because you didn't give them the proper treatment. And I've seen that, and that's the biggest thing since I've gotten out of the medical field. I use my voice because a lot of people, that's the sad thing, you go in there, you don't know what's wrong, but you know a general, like, there's something not right, and then the people don't want to hear you, or they want to use their
Yeah.
power, and that just is like a whole thing. How did you use your guts to speak up? Because last time I have a pituitary tumor. I was pregnant, telling the doctors I'm not going to get an MRI. I'm pregnant. What's wrong with you people? And they were saying you're non-compliant, and they tried to fire me as a patient because I told them I don't want to go get an MRI. Maybe I'll get one when I'm pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah. I know
I
it's
did
just,
win that though. I did win that because they did come back and find out, they were like, the x-ray people had my back, and they were like, we can't MRI a pregnant woman. Is there something? I was like, exactly. Thank you. So how did you get up the courage? Because sometimes they don't want to hear you, and they love to call you crazy. It's almost like sometimes it's like you're talking to a
yeah.
narcissist.
I know, the thing, and there's good that came of it because, I think this doctor that I went to will probably listen to his patients a little bit more. Things like this sometimes need to happen in order to shift like the entire collective, the relationship between the patients and the doctors. And even like my primary care physician, I actually got Bell's palsy during my first pregnancy. And that subsided after I was born, but I probably had the tumor back then, and I probably should have had an MRI, but I didn't have one. So now my doctor, if she ever has a pregnant person who has Bell's palsy, she's going to do an MRI after they have the baby, not to
Yeah.
scare them, but just to preventative now. So, there's a lot of great things that happen of it. But yeah, I think the thing that you can do is when I don't think doctors respond well to, being defensive or being, argumentative. I
Yeah.
think they respond better to having a conversation with them and sharing with them, what your symptoms are, why this is different for you, and really just sharing from like, I know my body. I had that conversation with that doctor for a little while, and I said, I just know something's wrong. I know, this is getting way worse. It's something different. It's not, I've had vestibular imbalance before. It's not the same. This is totally different. And so he agreed, and they found something. So being persistent can be helpful too, and not giving in. I think a lot of people get intimidated by doctors that, they have the white coat and they know more. And sometimes, it's not that they don't, they're there to, purposefully miss something, but it's like they sometimes need to open their lens a little bit bigger, because they're so like this every day that sometimes it takes that person to come in to just open that lens a little bit wider, to just listen. And it's not like you're trying to tell them what to do. It's just, please just listen to me. Just listen.
I just think it's funny you said that, because how my story ended is because I know doctors, like, I know that I respect them, but they always, like, because I look like I'm 12, when I end up having the conversation, they're like, yeah, honey, I know what's best for you. And this is how it goes because I have to find the right doctor. So what my angels did for me is this lady was like one of those just hated her life doctors, and she was just she's just tired. You could tell she'd been there for a while. She just didn't care no more, because all of a sudden I got the two head doctors of the whole maternity unit for the high risk pregnancy unit to personally be my doctors, pull out the book. And they even went, they didn't have to do this, because I was telling them what this lady, I was like, I don't feel right. I will be compliant. I will go and do what you guys tell me to, but I can't just be told you're going to take Parladel while you're pregnant and you're going to have an MRI. Those two things don't register in my brain because I'm thinking about the baby. They pulled out their book and they said, hey, by the way, you are correct. Parladel is bad for the baby, and no, you should not take it. And they even showed it in black and white. And after that, I was like, okay. And that's what it is. It's about making a friendship, and always, it's always about asking, because you know what, if you don't ask, that's why we have different doctors. It's not okay to just keep trying to find the answer you want, but it is okay to make sure that you feel good with your team, because that's how I feel the best health happens with it.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. Like I went to a lot of doctors because I was getting conflicting opinions, and nothing was sitting well with me. Like it didn't matter if, like, you know, I just wanted to make sure it sounded like something that was reasonable, and that it was, you know, the first doctor I went to just wanted to do surgery, cut my head open and take the tumor out. And then one doctor said, no, that's the absolute last thing we would do. So, like, you know, when you're getting conflicting opinions like that, you know, and that's why I went to Stanford, because, you know, one of the doctors I had seen, he'd only treated it 30 times in his career. That's not a lot, but it's more than none, or treating it only once. So yeah, ask a lot of questions and get lots of opinions, and do your research too, and see what, you know, really what the best treatment might be out there for, and find those doctors that are treating it.
That is so true. And I always tell people, because like I've worked for some amazing doctors, and then I've heard about the not so amazing doctors, and I always tell people, if you get a healthcare team, you're gonna work so much better. It's all about a team. You just got to have the team. And if somebody's, it's kind of like a coach, if they're gonna tell you what to do versus talk to you about it, because in the end, it is your choice. Bob Marley died because he didn't go get a tumor removed like he should have, because it was part of his religion that, you know, you're not supposed to take anything off the body. So there, he chose death instead of that, but that was his choice. So ultimately, we all have the choice. And that's why I love having women like yourself come out here, because it's not just a thing that happens in the women, but there are a lot of women out there that, unfortunately, I had a guest come on, she was a narcissist coach, and it's true. People that when they think of like narcissists and stuff, they think they're just in a romantic relationship. And she brought it to attention that, hey, you know what? You have the rights and the choice to think for yourself. And if you don't like something, guess what? You can choose to go to something else, but don't ever let anyone, you know, make that choice for you. Now, I want to get into a little bit, because these are some, I can just imagine how dark some of these times were for you. Who or what was a source of motivation to just help you? Because my tumor is non-malignant, but my best friend has the same tumor. It's pituitary tumor. It sits right above my eye. Hers is getting larger. She's not able to see. She won't go get her surgery because she doesn't trust the doctors in her area to not make her blind. But I understand, like, this is a thing. You're like, I have something in my head, and hopefully it doesn't just, you know, go out of control. How did you stay grounded, and what did you do to keep yourself going?
You know, at that point, I think when I found out it had grown almost 40%, it really scared the shit out of me. Like that's when I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not the norm for this type of tumor. And so I remember a friend of mine took me to a holistic doctor, and she's like, I want you to do whatever he says. And I remember he was, this holistic doctor from South Korea. He gave me all these really nasty drinking herbs to drink every day for like several months. I went on a really clean diet, no coffee, no alcohol, for like 6 months. And I felt great and I looked great, but my tumor was still growing, which told me, I was taking care of my body physically, but it was the mindset component that was really messing with me. And I look back now and I see it. And, that's when I started looking into like, visualization and in visualizing the tumor shrinking and like, starting to do things like that I've never really done before. And then I also found a really good therapist, and she actually referred me to an intuitive healer. And I went through some stuff with her as well. So that all kept me grounded. I prayed a lot. And, I think what kept me motivated is I had 2 little babies and I wanted them to know their mother. And I, they were my inspiration to just keep going. And, my husband at the time as well. And he, it was a lot for all of us. I was determined to not let this like stop me from having my life or living my life. And it really shifted my life in such an incredible way. Like I had a mentor once tell me the gift is in the shit. And it really is. Like when I look back, I'm like, I would not change one thing, not one thing at all.
I can fully agree with you with that. And, I understand the journey of, it's crazy. I'm starting to put a link with light workers and tumors, and because we have blocks in our crown, and I feel like it's something to do with like maybe we're from all the crap that we've sat around, all the people, they've created this block around, because your crown is how you receive the divine messages. So you usually know if you're not talking to an enlightened person, because everything they say is very ignorant and very self-centered and very narrow-minded. And you're like, yeah, you need to just vibrate that crown all open and let some love and light in there, because it is not getting air. But I have noticed this, and I've noticed that the power, I never, I had my spiritual awakening in 2017, and I never believed any of this, because I came in that environment of, yeah, right, my parents made fun of it, everybody in my surroundings made fun of it, and now here I am going, no, it's true. You really can heal yourself from cancer, because I'm a chakra practitioner too, an intuitive healer. And I've noticed that all this stuff that we block, that we put away for later, and we'll just deal with it later, and we never deal with it, that's what creates the disease, that emotion that we just put back, and we're like, we don't have time to be sad or whatever we're feeling at that moment, because it's never a convenient time to have a mental health day ever for anybody, because you got to always be available for somebody, and that's how most society lives. And so I'm learning that if we can start learning how to process our feelings and stop trying to just bury them or run away from them, but actually face them, our healthcare system would be amazing, because we'd have so many less sick people, because that's where all this sickness is coming. I never understood how energy just sits there and stagnates and creates this grossness that we sit in every day, and then we wonder why we feel stagnant, don't want to do too much. Now, I want to talk a little bit about your sister. I know that she was passed, but she was a big source of motivation for you. And I just wanted to give you a little platform to share a little bit about how she's been a big impact in your life.
Yeah, my sister. So I have 2 sisters, one older, my sister Juanita, she passed away 2 years ago from colon cancer. And then I have a younger sister, Karen. I think when I had my brain tumor journey, that was really the start of my like advocacy and advocating for others. Through that experience, I remember my neurosurgeon who actually treated me with the treatment that I eventually got. And he told me, he's like, wow, he goes, I've never seen a patient do what you do and get your treatment like authorized. Cause I appealed with the state, and
wow.
I did all my research. I found an attorney who just submitted the paperwork for me, and I won my appeal and got my treatment within weeks of the state calling me. And he's like, if I ever have another patient that comes up against this too, do you mind if I send them to you? And I said, absolutely not. I would love to help them. And then, and over the time, other people I know would get diagnosis or things, and I just go with them to sit at their appointments and take notes. And one thing about advocating, and I tell people, is like, have somebody come with you, have somebody take notes so you can listen. My sister was diagnosed with colon cancer, stage 4. I started going with her to her doctor's appointments. I went to her with chemo and just really learning about that, her illness and the treatments. And we went to different doctors. There were a couple times there were things that came up that I'm glad I was there. And it's always good to have somebody else to just kind of be, know what's going on and pull in all your resources of medical people that to like be there for you, like you have experience doing what you did. And then unfortunately with my sister, she fought her journey for about 2.5 years, and then she passed away. And it was a really, really difficult time. She was like one of my best friends.
I know she was. And Farrah Fawcett comes to mind because when I was working as a medical assistant, I would get in these arguments with these patients, especially when I worked at the military, how they didn't need to get a colonoscopy. And, it is your choice. But I started to learn, I also need to teach you on, because you don't have all the facts. That's why you don't want to get it. All you're seeing is the procedure. And that's the biggest thing, is it's embarrassing. People don't want to get it. But I always tell people, did you see Farrah Fawcett? I'm like, colon cancer is the one thing that you have to have a colonoscopy to catch, because it is an internal thing. And there is nothing else that will catch that. Unfortunately, you have to go in there and have like a visual. But really the colonoscopy is ultimately better because you're not going to get a false positive. You're going to have an actual eyeball in there looking, and all those polyps, that's if you don't, just like if you don't clear out your stagnant energy, you don't clear out those polyps, that's what turns into the cancer. And that's what people don't realize is when they go in there with their little tube, they're cutting out all those polyps. And most people don't have a lot, but if you have, it's crazy that that's the only way to take them out though. So I always tell people, it's one of those silent things. And when you find out you have it, it is too late. And I think it's amazing you now do speaking with the Cancer Society, correct?
It's interesting how things, how everything rolls into one thing to another. But my sister was always a huge, supporter of me. I was the middle child. So let's just say I didn't make the best decisions at times. And I was a little bit of a rebel rouser, and she was still always there for me and supported me, especially when I got divorced, helping me with my kids. And I'm a musician. So I have a band, a local band that we love to play at dive bars, and music's always been a part of my life. And she was always there for that. And, after she would come to even my little gigs, like they were hardly nothing. And she'd always be there, and she'd always be encouraging me. And the day after she passed away, I wrote a song about, it was my interpretation of her cancer journey. My guitar instructor and I, he's a dear friend I've known since high school, he gives me guitar lessons, and we put the song together. We sang it at her celebration of life. And I figured we published this song, and I thought it would get, maybe if we raise some money, we'll donate it to a colon cancer organization here in San Diego in honor of my sister. And just this past year, during all this pandemic, and when we've all were put on pause and really reflecting on things, I decided to make a lyric video out of that song, incorporating colon cancer statistics in it, because it's really, really important to me to bring awareness to colonoscopies and the preventative measures, because colon cancer is one of the most treatable and preventable cancers when it's caught early. And when it's caught late, like my sister's was, it's really, really challenging to beat. She first got diagnosed, her symptoms were ignored because of her age. She was 45. And right now I know there's some legislation, I think, being done to lower the screening age for colonoscopies. A lot of people don't do them. They don't think they need them, or they think about the process. And right now, through that lyric video I created, I reached out to a bunch of colon cancer groups to see if they would share my sister's story and share these statistics and facts to bring more awareness to getting colonoscopies done. And the response has been overwhelming. So now I'm working with a couple of different organizations to bring awareness to screening. And I didn't know this, and this is something that the viewers may not know too, is that 90% of colonoscopy screenings have been down this last year because of people not wanting
Wow,
to go to the doctor and go get them. And
I can
again, it's the
imagine.
most preventative and treatable cancer when it's caught early. When it's caught late, it's really, really challenging and difficult. So if you are due for a colonoscopy, please go get screened. And if your family has a history of it, especially, please go get screened. And if you have symptoms and your doctor isn't maybe taking those symptoms seriously, that you think there might be something wrong, you have a history. We had a history in our family too. Go get a second and third opinion and see what more information you can get on it. But this advocacy really, it's evolved. Like, it started with me helping others, and my sister really was I think the catalyst to take it to that next level of like reaching out to some organizations that I can help and volunteer with and share her story. Because the thing that I love doing right now with what I do with like TED Talks and speaking is the power of sharing a story and connecting that connecting the awareness part to an actual human and a story makes it much more powerful. And I did mine, through a story, through a song. I wrote my sister's story in a song and then incorporated these colon cancer statistics and facts. And some people that reached back out to me said, they cried when they watched it, and they shared it on their Facebook page, and other people shared it. So it's like, the power of our stories and really opening up our voice to share that and help others in a way that could really save their life. Because colonoscopies can be life-saving. She inspires me daily, and she's really a motivation behind a lot of what I do. And I talk to her daily.
Hey, I talk to my dad daily, so there ain't nothing wrong with that. But I totally agree. And what's funny is before I went through my divorce with my ex, I actually saved his life because of my knowledge of all the colonoscopies and infectious disease. And he had a stomach ache, and it was like to his knees. He was on the ground, and it was for 2 months. And I know you can only take antibiotics for 2 months, and then something else has got to happen. Well, he was only like 45. And so they were like, I was literally fighting there saying, he needs a colonoscopy. Something's not right in there. And they're like, ma'am, he's not 50. I was like, I know he's not 50, and I know that's the standard age. But long story short, because of being an advocate, is very, very important to, if something doesn't sit right with you, who cares? Keep talking until you get understanding. Don't be rude about it, but keep talking. Because of me, I went and talked to my infectious disease doctor that I worked for like years before, because I'm freaking out thinking my husband's going to die because I know something's not right. Well, guess what? They took 1.5 feet of his colon out because it was rotten. And you can't see that. They had to do exploratory surgery because they did do the colonoscopy and it came out clean, but he was still having that pain. And they found out his colon needed to be, he almost had to have
Colostomy bag?
A colostomy bag. He was probably a couple inches of colon away from that. So I think about that a lot. And when these come up, it is very, very important to not ignore stuff, especially the older you get. And just because there's an age group, a lot of people told me my whole life, I swear I have arthritis. I think I've had arthritis since I was young because my fingers should not do this when it gets cold. When I go to get something, they should not lock up. I've had people tell me I'm too young and that it's all in my head. And that's what most of my diagnosis, I haven't went to the doctor because my whole life, that was my toxic pattern of having everybody saying, you're too young. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's whatever. And that's how a lot of us get in these predicaments with our health.
Yeah.
And I've now finally learned to open up my throat chakra and be like, okay, I'm sorry it bothers you, but this is my body and I want to live. I don't want to die. So I want to know what's going to make me tick. So I love it that I love your whole spirit and everything. It is amazing to have people like you, because you really don't understand the impact of this whole conversation right now is having on someone, because so many people don't feel like they have a voice because they don't want to be a bother.
Yeah.
Most of it's either like they don't want to be a bother, or they're so wound up that you have to take them outside the doctor. You have to take them in the parking lot, take them on a walk, and calm them down. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
the main thing is stand up, be nice. The biggest thing is be respectful, because you get a lot more flies with honey. Be
Yep.
nice. We've always told that as medical assistant and as a medical professional. Be nice to your people. It's kind of like being nice to the fast food people. Be nice to the people that cook your
Yeah.
food.
Yeah. I mean, most doctors, and a lot of them I came across, they're all great, and they're all doing the right thing and they want to help and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the conversation is very important to make sure that you're, giving them that information, but also giving it in a very respectful way, and creating that relationship, with them, so that not only do you can trust them, but they can trust you as a patient too. I mean, as a result of, sharing that, I have had friends that have gotten colonoscopy screenings. They were putting it off and they got it. And one of my friends just told me like a week ago, she's like, we finally got ours done. And my husband actually had precancerous polyps removed. So, I mean, and the thing with colon cancer too is that, a lot of times you may have it and you don't show any symptoms. It's a slow growing cancer. And by the time you show symptoms, it tends to be in the later stages. So
Very true.
you just have to be careful. And, just when you're due for a screening, or if you have a history, go get screened.
And it's usually, and what's even cooler is the typical is every 5 years or every
Every
10
five.
years. It depends on your results. Now, if you have a history, it's every year you're supposed to go. And it starts earlier than 50, but normal
Yeah.
standards are if you don't have a history or anything, you start at 50. And then I always tell people, hey, guess what? If it doesn't come out like anything, guess what? You have 5 more years. So it's not something you have to go do like getting your teeth cleaned.
Yeah.
And that's makes you feel better, because usually people are like, all right, as long as I don't have to do this, because the preparation part, really, guys, I'm going to tell you, you're asleep for the whole thing. The preparation part is the hardest part, because this is what I used to be on the phone talk. I had to counsel people, and I
Yeah.
understand that is the hardest part. Is humans have a really hard time eating for 24 hours. Like, that was the biggest talk I always had on the phone. It's, can I have a chicken? I was like, no, you can't have a chicken sandwich
Yeah.
before you have your colonoscopy.
Yeah, it really wasn't that bad. When my sister got diagnosed, the doctor told me and my other sister, you guys need to get screened right now. So I went and got screened, and I
Well,
drank stuff and, cleaned out my system. They gave me some great drugs, knocked me out, and I woke up and it was done. It was really not
exactly.
that bad.
And that's what I tell people. The preparation is the worst, but really it's one day out of your life. And I'm going to tell you, colon cancer is a lot more harsh than the actual
It,
treatment. So
it
if
was
you are
brutal.
trying to avoid
Yeah.
it, please don't avoid that one. Please just go get it done with over and move about your day. I got my mom to do it by working and being an educator. She was trying to put it off, and I got her into getting it, and it makes me feel better that she got some polyps removed. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you for just, it's very,
Um,
very important.
I think part of, me healing through the grief and the loss of my sister is carrying her legacy and sharing her story, and in the hopes that, it'll help others be preventative in their journeys, and not delay and put it off. So
Exactly. And I think that's really cool that your sister's getting to live her legacy through you. You mean you're still getting to put her out there and put a good light. So no matter what she did in her life here, now she gets a second chance to even help more people. And I think that's amazing. And I'm pretty sure that's why I do my stuff too, because I have so many friends that have passed over from being in toxic relationships. They could have been prevented, but because they weren't strong enough to fight the fight, and they were just weak. And that's what I find out. A lot of people don't want to succumb to the toxicness. They just give up. And so when
yeah,
you see people just giving up, please lend them a hand and help them and let them know it's okay, because we would stop losing such great people around here if they felt a little more supported, I feel. But how
yeah.
does this kind of rolls into how does your daily self-care kind of look like for you? Because I know for me, it's very important that I have my routine. I do my
Yeah.
meditations and stuff. How do you keep yourself balanced and centered and keep going? Because I know some days are rocks and some days are diamonds, but how
Yeah.
do you keep it flowing?
I think when I went through my brain tumor stuff, that's when I started like really tapping into my intuition and like listening to myself and what do I need, my body, my mind, everything. And I read a book called The Miracle Morning. I don't know if you've read that by
Mm-mm.
Hal Elrod, but that really changed my life. And he's got several Miracle Morning books that it's for different people and different types of jobs, or even one for families. But it's starting your morning routine with like, I get up at between 5 and 5:30 every morning, and I do my routine before my children wake up, because that's my time and that's my self-care time, and that's like me setting my intentions for the day and just really getting in a good mindset of prepping myself. And especially this last year, it's been really challenging with my kids being home distance learning and like me juggling that with work. And so I know that when I don't do my morning routine, I am way off, like when I miss it one day. So it is non-negotiable, and that includes journaling, some breath work. I go for a walk every morning, I pray, I connect to my higher source. I have a high performance planner I use that really looks at my day's schedule to see, like, what are things in my day that might be, might challenge my energy a little bit. And whether it's maybe somebody I have to deal with, or I don't know, whatever it could be. And so I do that every morning. And then at night, I do a nighttime routine and I do a reflection of the day. And anything that maybe I need to clear from something I'm trying, maybe I'm self-sabotaging myself for something or whatever it may be, I take that time to like really clear that. And then I meditate every day. Like that's non-negotiable too. So I do a 20-minute meditation, and those things really keep me grounded. And I think during this past year, stayed in a good space, I think, by doing those things that I do every day. So it's really important to me. And you know, and when I miss it, I can feel it. Like
Yeah.
I'm off, and I know that I need to stop and ground or do something, because that time is like just it's really my self-care, self-love time.
Exactly. And I always tell people, before you pick up your phone, before you pick up the news, before you let anything else into your day, sit with yourself at least for 30 minutes after you open up your eyeballs
Ah,
and sit with yourself. And first thing you should do is say thank you, because we forget to do that. And you know what? Your creator never forgot
yeah,
to wake you up.
yeah,
So maybe you should not forget to say thank you. Because I was reading a book and it was talking about this monk who only seemed like all these people on the plane were panicking and they wanted this monk to pray to help them out. And he's like, no. And they were like, what do you mean no? And he's like, I'm not going to tap into source to help y'all people. So when they got down on the ground and everybody's evacuating this plane safely, the monk starts praying. And they were like, what are you doing? Why are you praying now? It's after the fact, genius. Like, we don't need your help now. Like, why are you praying now? And he said, I am sitting here saying thank you. I'm giving gratitude, because it's
yeah,
funny that we always only want to say thank you when we're in the middle of it and we get saved. But we never seem to take time to sit down and say thank you. And so the monk did it backwards, but it really made sense that a
yeah,
lot of time we don't give gratitude to the simple little things.
yeah,
Being able to smell is a gift, and we don't always wake up as grateful, because this world is really structured to embed some really hateful things. So if you take the first 30 minutes and for yourself, get your mind right. And people always say I don't have time. Well, you know what? I used to have that. I had to get up before everyone else, and I had to get up at 5:30 to have my peaceful time, because if not, I was gonna have a special day anyways, being with a narcissist. But I was gonna have an even more special day if I didn't get my self together, because then I would eventually fall apart at work. So just food for thought. But
Yeah, I
speak
like that. I wake up too. The first thing I do when I wake up is I just am so grateful. I just say thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for another day. Thank you for, I love that because that's
because we know the future is not promised. I've almost been close to death quite a few times in my life. It really is an emotional thing for me to say thank you, because I've almost had my last breath taken, and I've had my friend's last breath taken
yeah,
by a man who was mad because I guess she didn't have drugs. So he just
yeah,
decided to choke her out. So, that was a wasted life. And and you're losing your sister, you've lost life. And sorry, I'm just a little emotional right now. It's
yeah,
very important that we stop being so judgmental and worried about the petty things, and let's just start giving gratitude for
yeah,
even being able to experience this life that we have.
yeah. Yeah, it really is like it puts things in perspective for sure when you are faced with your own tragedy or scare, and then you see it happen to others as well. Like I know every day is such a gift. I don't take it for granted. I jump out of planes. I do things because I know like this is just the one
Living in the
I
moment.
have. So I'm going to do what I
Exactly.
want.
Well, we're about to wrap this up. I'm so excited to sit here and chat with you, and I will be sharing your video on my page too. We'll share that along with your interview. I would like to know, what is your biggest lesson that this whole entrepreneurial journey has taught you, and how has it helped you find your why and your purpose, just to live life by your rules, not the way everybody else wants you to?
I think the biggest thing it's just taught me is to just, if everybody really did what they wanted to do, like what they truly wanted to do, like without, the fear of like what other people are going to think. When I quit my job, I was 46 years old. I'm 49 years old. And I remember people thought I was crazy. They're like, you're having a midlife crisis. There was so much judgment. And I was like, I'm having a midlife awakening. Like it
Exactly.
was to me, it was an awakening. Like you've got more to do on this planet. This is done, time to move on. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey. The entrepreneurial journey is definitely like up and down, but finding my why this past year to help others, really empower them with using their voice and their ideas so that they can inspire others to do the same, give them permission to do the same, is like it's just such an amazing feeling. I can't even describe it. Like I am so grateful that, it all happened the way it did. I think if something's the only thing I can say, if something's tugging at you and it keeps tugging at you, and just listen, like, what does that mean? Like, get curious, like, oh, that's interesting. Why does this keep showing up for me? Like, and it'll guide you. And the one thing when I have a lot of people, my friends will call me and be like, I don't know what to do. I'm confused. I'm like, meditate. Meditation is your internal GPS. It will guide you. It will give you answers. It will tell you everything that you need to know. You don't need to go looking outside. You need to seek within.
That is so true. And I didn't understand that at first. I thought people were just blowing me off, but it's really true. If you can't find the it in within here first, now you can always look within and then ask people, what do you think about this? Get their opinions. But in the end, it is ultimately you who
Yep.
decides how you want to live your life. And my life may not attract the way that you like, but guess what? That's why you're allowed to live in California and I'm allowed to live in Colorado, and I do what I do and you do what you do. And that really opened up my brain one day, is that everybody is out here at this moment. How many people are doing different things? There's millions of different things going on right at this moment, but all we see is this little box that we're
Yeah.
in. And most of us get caught up in exactly, we don't see outside of the box. But if you can get the vision like you and see that there's something else out there, I'm not just supposed to live in this little box and that's all I'm supposed to see, then you're going to be amazing, going amazing places. So what is some advice or guidance that you have for our audience and fellow survivors of the toxic shadows? What would you guide them to break up with their fear of their toxic relationship and find a new dance partner?
I think when those shadows come up or you have toxic relationships, it's really a time to lean in versus run away. And my therapist really, I went into a couple years of really deep therapy of like really diving into my childhood traumas and my wounds, and even with my intuitive healer, we did a lot of forgiveness sessions, and so all those people that are toxic or were toxic to me were my biggest teachers. And they had to be in my life for me to shift my ways of thinking, my ways of being, for me to, be a better person and not be maybe being more accepting of where everybody's at in their journey, if that makes sense. Like, allowing other people to have their own experiences, regardless of what they say, what they do, like that's theirs, this is mine, and not attaching myself too much, so much to them or what they might say or do. So, those people that are, poking at you and are in your space are there for a reason. And, that's where it's like the gift of like allowing yourself to lean into that and being like, what's this trying to teach me here?
Very, very true. And I've been really reading up on narcissism because I'm going to be creating a toxic guidebook soon. And one fun fact about narcissists and empaths are that narcissists are the only being that can come in and help change our mindset as an empath. So that was my biggest question, is why do narcissists come in and ruin a completely good empath and now they're damaged? And it is because that empath needed to learn a lesson, and apparently they're the biggest demon that can come in and really rock our world and get us ungrounded enough that we're like, wait a minute, there's something not right here. This is a different kind of thing. And then, because really, literally, that is the one thing that finally made me snap out of it and go, what are you doing? And I was like, what is it you do to this 10-year marriage of unhappiness? You need to get out of it. And that's where women, we draw our breaking point. But fun fact is that we draw all this in here. So if you are going through something, ask yourself, how have I been thinking lately? How have your thoughts been thinking? Because I've even learned as a coach that how I act draws in my clientele. So I've always learned I created all this. So if I don't like something that's coming my way, maybe I need to work on the output and the input will come better, or vice versa.
And I really think that self-care, self-love, that really putting yourself first, I didn't do that for a long time. I was always putting everybody else first, my family, my kids, my work, and I was just depleted. And I see now that it's completely flipped. I am number one. I am priority. I take care of myself because I'm at the best version I can be for my kids, for work, for my clients, for everybody. So it is so important to me. That's why it's like those daily routines are non-negotiable, because it helps me be just the best version of myself, and teaches me and reflection and perspective and all that stuff. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I love your whole story. How can our viewers reach you if they want to get in contact with you to be their TED Talk coach, or, connect with you for motivational speaking spots, or, maybe get your podcast interview?
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really
You're
fun.
welcome.
And thank you for having me share. I'm full of gratitude right now. Thank you. They can reach me. They can go to my websites, www.rachellebabler.com. And there they can connect with me. I have a contact page that they can contact me at, and also on social media as well. Facebook, it's Rachelle Babler. It's my maiden name and then my married name, Babler.
Okay.
And I'm on there too. But my links are on my website for my social media.
Awesome. And they'll be all underneath this as well, guys. So thank you so much for joining us today. I really know that your story is going to help a lot of folks out there, because I always tell people the first key to healing is awareness. So spreading awareness helps to spread the healing. So thank you so much for using your adversity to help others.
And thank you for having this podcast to help others too. Thank you.
You're welcome. I am so happy that I get to have this and share this with everyone. But there you have it, beautiful souls. Another powerful guest that has learned to survive their swim in the toxic waters and break up with their toxic dance partner, fear. If you need help trying to find a new dance partner, please reach out to myself or Rachelle on the show today, and let us show you how a single 4-letter word can change your mind. And that 4-letter word is love. With love, all things are possible. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dancing in the Toxic Shadows. Until we meet again, this is Just Intuitive Angel Healer, sending angel vibes. Love and light, everybody. Take care.